David Seven, aka Diz, and this is The Force Always.
Welcome to the show. This is The Force Always. News, views, reviews, and interviews. Pretty much the basis of this particular episode is going to be on Black Widow by Marvel at the cinemas, released this week, July 9, either on streaming services or in the cinema. Straight off the bat, Black Widow gets a 9 out of 10. It was what I thought it was going to be through seeing the trailers, the still images, the idea of the character being put out as a main movie. It was really good. But in this film, it's a bit more mature understanding with the story, as it's quite a, it's got a basicness to it, if that's a word. But it's a little bit, you've got to know a bit of background, you've got to know a little bit of, Marvel science, you've got to know things like that to sort of really get the film. You can go in this film and watch it without watching any of the other Marvel films, but you will sort of miss out on the significance of this character, Black Widow. I thought 9 out of 10, the visuals, whether it was, in the settings, and that was the settings of a big landscape or within a tight little European street, or even the effects, were all seamlessly amazing. Really well done. I just thought, and some of the camera shots, movements and things like that by the director was just really good ideas. It just gives it a sort of an extra sort of dimension to it. The music was really good, but it didn't stand out. It was really good. I thought in the trailer it stood out much more. Scarlett Johansson as a lead was really, really good, but her sister, which is a bit of a spoiler in this film, that's not much of a spoiler, but it's a little bit of a spoiler, but her sister was almost the lead in this film more than her, and she really did a great job. Just the idea of where that character was meant to go. I also thought the dad of Scarlett Johansson, or Black Widow, was a really good idea. It sort of had a sort of spoof to it, but it had a seriousness to it, to his character, and it was just fantastic. The audience I went to see it with, the actual cinema was quite busy, not massively packed, but it was quite busy, and I was a bit surprised during these COVID times, but it was well done. And by the cinema, getting that amount of people in there, this was an advanced screening. So there was a lot of people there. I think the COVID safety was a little bit in question, but at the same time, it was done as best as they can in these trying times. But going back to the film itself, I think the highlight to this film was that it's a rewatchable film. It's the type of film that there's nothing emotionally or nothing iconic in it that stands out too much, where you get a bit sort of like, I can't be bothered watching that film again, because it just brings a certain emotion, or you just sort of, it's a bit too simple in that way. But it's got a type of thread from start to finish that is just visually entertaining. You can switch off, you can switch on, and really be entertained by this film. And I just thought it was just a really well done film, and I can see that why they held back on this, because it had lots of substance to it, and I think that there's and it just to rejuvenate that sort of Marvel crowd as well. I, as a Star Wars fan, look at these films and think, man, I just wish Star Wars gets to that type of level where it's just such a structure and strength to the story. Don't get me wrong, I think there's a lot of greatness in Star Wars storytelling, but it's getting a little bit complicated in timeline, and it's getting a little bit complicated in how you really bring that emotional, or bring the, the structure to the story a bit tighter. The only area of Black Widow that I would say, I could feel that it wasn't a dead set classic. It was not, for me, a Terminator 2, a Star Wars: A New Hope, American Beauty, if I'm going to really stretch the classic films. It just wasn't that iconic. It's a type of film you can sort of forget, but remember to watch and rewatch. 9 out of 10. I thought the cast were really casted well. Again, I thought the effects were great, seamless, and really intricately put together once again. But not just that, some of the landscape shots in this, I think it was in Norway, it was epic. I would say it's epic. It's something like you would see is in the Lord of the Rings. But it's not Lord of the Rings, let me tell you that right now. Without giving anything else away about this film, which I haven't really given that much away, I would definitely watch it at the cinema. You can watch this on streaming service, no problem, but I think in a cinema it will have that depth that you really want, especially with the music. And I suppose one surprise sort of element, there's a remake of a song, Nirvana's Smells Like Teenage Spirit, which I thought was actually for a song in an R&B-ish sort of alternative way, well done, and it comes at the start of the film. I thought that was quite good. Like, you didn't really recognize it to be Nirvana straight off, and you sort of got to understand those familiar lyrics. Look, I highly recommend it. 9 out of 10. Can't go on anything more about that. Next week I'll be coming back with the news, views, reviews, and interviews by Star Wars: The Force Awakens. But until next time, you can contact me on the Twitter, Instagram, even YouTube message, and I'm here on a weekly basis. Well, let's call it weekly-ish basis. In the new sort of setting at the moment, still getting fine adjustments. Behind this flag that I usually rock, which is my logo for The Force Awakens, I've got a bit of a setup of my classic Star Wars stuff that I'll review to you in the weeks ahead. But let's just keep it unrevealed at this moment in time. Anyway, until next week, as I say, my friends, keep rocking.